Hey, this is Steve Stewart. Thank you so much for checking out the Money Plan SOS podcast. This is episode 200, and this is the final episode before I retired the show. Now, there's 200 episodes of the back catalog you can go back and listen to. This one specifically was kind of a nice tying a bow on the top of this whole thing. And it isn't specific content that I created. This was asking other financial bloggers, people who write about money, what they learned about money as they wrote about money. It was a learning experience, a gradual progression of knowledge from when they started to when they ended. The interviews are very short, and it's just a quick half-hour episode for you. It's not a reflection of the entire back catalog. So please, when you listen to this one, don't think this is what all the episodes are like. This was a unique one. This was, again, to put a little bow on the top of this gift to be able to say, we're done. We're wrapping this up. Episode 200, and now the show is retired. And this was recorded live at the FinCon Expo in 2015. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hi, this is Brad Chaffee from Enemy of Dead.
The Average Joe here.
Dave Hilton.
Jenny Kerr.
John White.
Dustin Hartsook.
Jen McDonough.
Joshua Brown.
Billy Elson Jesus.
Jeff Rose.
Mike and Mandy.
Carrie from CarefulSense.com.
You're listening to
Steve Stewart.
Steve Stewart.
Steve Stewart on the
Money Plan.
MoneyPlan SOS podcast.
Helping everyday Americans.
Pay attention.
Pay attention.
Pay attention.
Not Interest.
Not interest.
Not interest.
Ladies and gentlemen, recording the 200th episode of the Money Plan SOS podcast live from the Trade King podcasting stage at FinCon 2015. I'm your humble servant and personal finance architect, Steve Stewart. I'm so happy you guys are here, live here again. This is at the Westin Charlotte, and I'm going to have a fantastic lineup of guests here today. We're going to have 9 guests. Hopefully we'll get all 9 on. Each one of my guests is going to tell me what they learned about money while they were blogging about money. So these are financial bloggers who've been doing some of them for years, and some of them just started like last month. And this is going to be really, really interesting. First of all, I'm going to bring on my friend Eric Rosenberg. Eric is the blogger over at personalprofitability.com, and he has a podcast called The Personality Podcast.
Yeah, the Personal Profitability Podcast. I like a lot of P's. I like alliteration.
Absolutely. So, Eric, you blog over there. You've been doing this for many, many years.
7 years now, next month.
Fantastic. Can you tell us, what have you learned about money while you were writing about money?
Well, my background from education, I have both an undergraduate and an MBA in finance. So I was already pretty well financial-minded and educated when I started. I think the biggest light bulb moment I had was when I started thinking about personal finance like dieting. You know, you can exercise 100 hours or 24 hours a day, and you won't lose any weight if you eat and eat and eat and eat. You have to focus on the input, and that's what makes your personal finances what they are. So budgeting is very important, but focus on your income. I think that's the real way. No one got rich by budgeting. You can maintain a good lifestyle through budgeting. You can keep your expenses from going out of control. But if you want to get wealthy and build up a big asset base, you have to raise your income. And my blog opened a lot of doors to me to start making more money through other businesses, which freelancing is actually 90% of my online income now. 10% comes from my own blog. So focusing on that income has really built me up in a way that I can save more than I ever have before. I rarely have any money stresses anymore. I'm debt-free other than my mortgage. And that's all thanks to really building up that income and focusing on both my career and my side businesses.
Fantastic. Eric Rosenberg from
the Personal Profitability Podcast and personalprofitability.com.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on the 200th episode of the Money Plan SOS podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Next on, we have the fabulous, fantastic Emily Guy Birken, who you've been writing about finance for a while, but not just for like one blog.
No, I write for all of them.
Okay, so let's see.
Quite.
You've got Wisebread.
Yes.
You've got PT Money.
Yes.
You got a couple books out.
Yes, I do.
Real quick.
I've got Choose Your Retirement, which is due out October 2nd, my brand new book. And then The 5 Years Before You Retire, which was published back in 2014 and is still doing well and still has a lot of great information in it.
Way back in 2014. That was like,
Yes.
That was like
So
so
long
last
ago.
year.
Yeah.
So Emily, how long ago did you start writing personal finance articles?
I started 5 years ago. My first assignment was with PT Money, and that's actually what got me started writing about finance in general. I have a background in English and writing. I don't necessarily in finance, although my father was a financial planner. So I kind of learned as I went. And even though I've always been pretty good about debt reduction and budgeting and that sort of thing, I was not necessarily on board with retirement savings. I knew it was important, but it was kind of outside of my comfort zone. So when I was first writing about retirement, I was doing kind of a do as I say, not as I do thing.
Yeah.
Just because it was so much more interesting to me to save up for my son's college education and to save up for vacations rather than think about something that was so far in the future. So writing about retirement in particular and finance has really helped me to prioritize my own retirement.
And that's what you've basically learned from this.
Oh yeah,
5 years of writing about
5
money.
years. I've learned just how very important it is to make sure that my money goes towards my future.
And apparently you're doing fairly well because you've written 2 books. And look at that, Joe Salsihai has the foreword on the very front of the book.
Yes, he does.
Stacking
He
Benjamins.
is very proud of that.
Awesome. Emily Guy Birken from Emily Guy Birken. That's a B-U-R.
B-I-R.
B-I-R-K-E-N.
That's right.
.com. Thanks for coming on the Money Plan SOS podcast.
Thank you.
This next one's going to be fun. This is Katie Austin. She writes for a website called activehours.com. Now, how long have you been doing that?
So it's been about 3 months. So
3 months.
It's pretty new.
I'm guessing this is your first FinCon.
This is definitely my first FinCon. Yeah.
So we go from 5 years with Emily to 3 months. Have you learned anything new about money since you started writing for
I
Active
have.
Hours?
So just as a little bit of background on me, growing up, so my dad was a financial planner, which of course meant that I was completely averse to anything financial related. And so I tried to kind of push my life into the arts and all of those things, and that's been really great. And then I started working in tech. And once I got into tech, I kind of found my way back to finance with Active Hours. And so what I've been really drawn to is the apps. So apps that make it easier for me to deal with finances because I actually don't want to deal with them. And so like Mint and Level and Digit and those kinds of things where it makes financial living accessible for someone like me. So I love writing about those things, and that's kind of what I've been learning about, and it's been helping me to kind of deal with my finances in a way that I never thought I would.
So what would you say, is there a pivotal moment that you made a decision and it's just kind of like I decided to automate my finances by doing bill pay? I mean, what was
so
the one
thing that happened is, honestly, my boyfriend was like, I have a challenge for you. You have to look at every single dollar that you spend. And that's what it was. It was love. Love was the pivotal moment. But
We could sing a song, but we won't.
Yeah, no,
we
that's
only have 4 minutes.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, if I have to track everything, I need to look into how I can do this without actually doing it. And that was when I kind of started investigating those things. And that was what I was writing about for work anyway. And so it kind of, worlds collided and there was magic.
Okay, so now you're writing for Active
Hours.
Active Hours. Now, do you have a personal website, or is that just where you can be found?
No, that's where I can be found.
Fantastic.
Yep.
And you can be found online on Twitter at Active Hours.
At Active Hours, yeah.
Fantastic.
That's all me.
Great. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what you're like next year when you have a whole 13 months under your belt.
Oh my God, I'm going to learn so much.
Months.
But I'm going to learn it all this weekend.
Smart move. Well,
yeah.
Katie, thank you so much for coming on the Money Plan SOS podcast. Now, we're going to try and see if we can't get everything I need out of this guy, because this guy is just, he is the financial mentor. In fact, that's where you can find him, at financialmentor.com. It's Todd Tresidder. Todd, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Steve.
I have been just putting it off, and I don't know why. We need to get you on, and this is not enough time, but you're the author of many, many books. I mean, how many books do you actually have?
There's 5 books right now, but as you know, a lot of my content's long body, so, I mean, some of the articles are almost book length.
It's almost like putting a book online as a post. Yeah. So how long ago did you start to write about personal finance? Well, let's start real quick with your background. It was hedge fund management?
Yeah, my background's investing, so kind of the rocket science of investing, which is the hedge fund world, so quantitative investing as opposed to traditional passive buy and hold strategies.
Was there writing articles involved in any of that? Or?
No, extensive research. I spent a decade doing quantitative research, modeling trading systems, and developing investment strategies for hedge funds.
And then how long ago did you leave that world and come into Financial Mentor?
1998, we sold the company. So we sold the hedge fund business in 1998, and I started the blog Financial Mentor in 1998.
Wow. So you've been doing that for, gosh, that's a long time. That's more than 10 years.
Yeah. Originally it started out as a static website. So it really, I made all the classic mistakes in internet marketing.
Uh-huh.
So it really didn't take off until I understood WordPress, which I think was, about 5 or 6 years ago.
And then so the question here today is, what have you learned since you started writing about money? What have you learned about money since writing about it?
Well, there's a couple of things. With every post that I write, I learn. Every post, because I do research, I get very deep into each post, and so I learn with everything I write, constantly refining my knowledge. But also, the bigger picture is I've learned that it's much simpler. The big principles, the important essential things, are actually quite simple, and it's just the devil is in the details.
Uh-huh.
And that's what the posts are for, is you go deep into the details. But the big concepts are really quite simple that everybody needs to learn.
So I think you're kind of like me. You write not just to learn for yourself, but then to be able to teach others as well.
Yeah.
So is that the benefit you're getting from this?
No, actually, the benefit for me is community, connection, contribution, all those things that make for a fulfilling life that are kind of softer, that's not the hard side of life. That's what it really brings for me. When I get a note from somebody saying that they achieve financial independence just off my free content, I'll get a letter, somebody will say, "You've never heard from me, I've never written you, and I achieved financial independence and it was off your free content."
Wow.
That kind of stuff is really rewarding.
Yeah. So what is the one big thing that you've learned since you started writing about personal finance?
I think the book, How Much Money Do I Need to Retire? That book was a real big refinement for me in understanding that retirement's really about cash flow, not assets. I think when I first retired in 98, I had the myth that it was about assets, like so many other people. And it's really, you got to transform your thinking, and that's what the book does.
And what you do with that extra cash flow.
Yeah.
You can't just have cash flow because then we end up spending it. So let's go ahead and pimp. What is one of the? Oh no, you're offering people 18 essential lessons from a self-made millionaire on your website, financialmentor.com.
Yeah, I give away a free ebook on the site for people who want to subscribe, and then I also give away a free course called 52 Weeks to Financial Freedom. And no, it's not get rich quick. You won't get rich in a year. But what it does do is it goes through all the big principles and the structures and the outlines of what you have to go through in the process. So at least you have a framework or a map, a roadmap for how you're going to go through it.
All right. And that can be found at financialmentor.com.
Exactly.
Great. All right, Todd, thank you so much for coming on the Money Plan SOS podcast.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Our next guest, we'll get some music going.